Olá, boa noite a todos. Ahm, Estamos aqui de volta a mais um BeHuman Convida. Estamos aqui de volta a mais um BeHuman Convida. Estava com alguns problemas tecnológicos. Bem-vindos a todos. O tema de hoje é um tema que traz controvérsias há muitos anos. Today we will have an English speaker, invitee, who is Mar Michelle Hausler. She's already here. Mar, I see you as Give and Take Lab. I'm not sure if you want to join us as Give and Take Lab or as Mar Michelle. Just let me know and wave me. You can even ask me to enter with Mar Michelle, and I will approve you. Por isso, para todos os nossos convidados, nós hoje faremos este live em inglês. Idealmente, vou disponibilizar o live com... ok. Idealmente, vou disponibilizar o live because our invitee, Mar Michelle, she speaks an amazing English and she wants to share with us an amazing her experience. I was introducing the topic and also you, so welcome, Mar, and thank you for accepting this amazing invitation. I was telling our followers that I want to include some subtitles in the live. For now, the live will be available after the live in our pages, but soon I expect to have some subtitles so people can follow us, because this is an amazing and very important topic. And whenever there is economical crisis periods like we face this moment, we see that there is a strong connection with mental health and emotional health projects. So, welcome.
Amazing.
So, what I did, you are the experts in this topic, and what I did simple and basic research on what happens when, and what I see during my consultations with people and their relationship with money, especially during these crisis periods. And I begin to share this information with people so people understand if this is alive for themselves or not. Mm-hmm. So I can share what my discoveries for the recent period.
Please,
We discovered that usually we had an amazing economical crisis in 2008 in Portugal, and in this moment we saw that there was 90% of mental illness. It erased, and after this situation in 2015 we saw that this 90% of people struggling with mental health problems, it increased to 31%. After this situation...
Decreased, so it went down.
It increased mental health challenges, yes. And what is expected right now, because of our pandemic, is that these numbers related to the economical crisis increase to 41% if people don't have information related to their financial situation, or if people don't look for support. And that's why I decided to invite someone like you with your expertise to give us some tips and to help us on how to deal with this. In March, we discovered the numbers. We discovered that we had 353 million of people. It's lots of zeros and millions that were unemployed in Portugal. And we know from science tells us also that unemployment brings and increases in 20 and 30% the suicides in a society. So this is not only a matter of, let's talk about money, it's a matter of preventing death. It's a matter of helping people to to live, in fact.
Yeah.
What I discovered, at least Portuguese, in Portugal, people struggle to talk about this topic. They don't know how to talk. It's very easy to talk about economical problems, but to talk about their experience and their financial situation, it's really a massive taboo. Usually it's very easy to talk about sex and to talk about political issues or sometimes controversial problems like abortion or something like this. But when it comes to money, it's a massive taboo. And even people avoid to talk and they skip. By avoiding what I see, it's like people sometimes they go to my consultations and they don't identify this as a problem, and then they collapse. And finally, when they begin to deconstruct this issue, they begin to look for solutions. And maybe you can also share if you have some experience with this situation.
Of course.
Okay, we can begin. I don't know if you want to. These are the general lines of things that I discovered about money. I also discovered that it's a mean and it's an end, and sometimes this gets really confusing for people because it's a mean for me to reach my own end, and where am I in this equation? Also, sometimes people, what I see during the consultations, psychological consultations, it's people they feel they struggle in their marriage and their relationships because the way they spend money between the couple is different, and their beliefs towards money also affects this relationship. So at least this is what I see in Portugal. And in humanitarian contexts where usually I intervene, after a massive crisis situation such as war, natural disaster, people change the relationship they have with money. And most of the times it brings more, it's easy to find happiness in poverty contexts. So overall, this is my experience with this topic. So I don't know, just introduce yourself and just bring and share your experience, which is amazing, and your opinion about all of this, and then we will go from there.
Great. Thank you for having me. Can you hear me well?
Yes, yes.
Okay, perfect. You might like have to bring some topics again so I can touch upon them
I
because there were so many. I
will
was like,
bring
oh,
them.
this and this and this.
Many things.
I know. I was like, oh, I want to speak about this one. So I'll remember maybe when you guide me. But
Yeah.
yeah, I'm really happy to kind of bring this. A big one is relationships that I would love you to remind me of later
Okay.
too, in couples, because that's something that comes up a lot, I find. So how did all of this happen? I like to tell my story from when I was really young, but I remember it's like a moment when, as a child, you realize like, why are you making certain decisions? And I think for me, that was a big thing. I remember when my mom was like, oh, we can like do this, but can't do this. And money was the factor. And when I started realizing, I think it was like 4 or 5, I started figuring out like, oh, what is this? Like, she was like, okay, we can take a taxi one way and a bus the other way. And you can choose which way. And I was trying to understand why and what context that was in. And I remember seeing her pay with a credit card, and I was like, oh, how do the notes and coins fit into this card? And what is money? Because I realized at this point that spontaneity was cut because of financial decisions. And I feel like we're all born super creatively, super open. When we're children, we know what we come here for. Like every child is like connected. Everyone has that purpose. But the second like these factors come in, I feel like we start cutting away from what our purpose is, and we start getting kind of like our fears come in, scarcity beliefs of the system, and that's what narrows us down into a certain thinking around money. So that was kind of one factor that really drove me on this path, because in my teenage years I started feeling that like money for me was freedom. And at the time I realized, oh, in finance you can make a lot of money, and that's what I want to do, and I worked. And it's kind of a longer story, but humanitarian causes have always been part of my life, interestingly. And I went to school in Singapore that was all about that. But I remember my dad turning around to me and saying, you can't help others if you can't help yourself. And I wanted to volunteer. And it hurt me really on a deep level, this kind of sentence that I carried with me for a while, because I was like, oh, okay, I need to make money and money is freedom. And so I ended up working in finance in London. And synchronistically, I sometimes question why I live in Portugal, because I was trading during the crises of 2008 that you mentioned, from 2007 to 2011. I was basically trading all of the all of the bank bonds and insurance companies. So I was trading Lehman Brothers when they were going bankrupt, AIG when they were going bankrupt, but I was also trading all of the Spanish and Portuguese banks at the time, which were the ones that were going down. But when we were in finance in London, what we were doing is we were making a lot of money on the back of this. And I remember spending every day in the toilet just crying and not understanding and feeling this is not aligned with my values. Like I was under so much pressure and making more money. And yeah, I was making money and I had a target in my mind. Okay, by the time I'm 30, I want this amount of money. I want to be promoted. And that was it. And I was 26 and I remember every day crying, making a lot of money, but not having the time to spend it. And just feeling really out of kind of alignment with myself. Like this kind of feeling where you look in the mirror and you don't see yourself there a little bit. And that really hit me. And at some point I feel like life throws us, you might know this from your work, but different things. Like sometimes you'll hurt your foot or you'll get sick or, like little things where it's like, maybe you're not going the right way. Like, maybe wait. And then it gets bigger and bigger. And sometimes, unfortunately, like something big has to happen for people or someone to change their direction in life. And I felt like life was throwing me loads of these. And so I left finance at the age of 26. It's kind of a long story around that. But when I started traveling, I realized the consequences of the actions that we were doing. Because I was sitting in a room in London trading these bonds and not thinking about the people behind it. So, for example, when I'm here in Portugal now, I speak to people who really suffered in this crisis. I have a friend's mother who went through bankruptcy. People lost their houses. Like, it was huge. And we're making money on the back of this, and yet people's lives are impacted. And when I was traveling, I met people who had mortgages 5 times the amount the houses were worth. Irish people telling me about other people, because Ireland was very affected, their friends committing suicide. And I started realizing like the impact of these actions that were being taken. And so that really propelled me onto this journey where I ended up traveling between India and Brazil. I did a lot of work around understanding what is money and what is our relationship to it. And now it's like a passion for me to speak about it, to open this topic, because I feel like even in families, we don't talk about it. Even between parents and children. It's like we don't speak about it, and it's like brushed under the carpet, but it's there. And everyone needs to deal with it on a daily basis. And it's the one thing that we don't educate young people. Sorry, I'm just moving. I'm getting too excited. Young people about, I'm like,
this is emotional. Yes, because it is an emotional topic. And the biggest problem, what I discovered is people, they tend to take money from the equation most of the times. And when you jump in, you get emotional, of course. You get emotional, of course. So thank you for bringing in this.
No, but for me, it's like, the studies show that it takes 5 generations to change your socioeconomic pattern. Because I don't feel like we educate young people about it. So what happens is that you end up doing what your parents have done or what your family has done. So it keeps the society and people in the same positions. Of course, if your parents have had debt and used credit cards and you don't understand anything different, or you don't believe you can be in another position, that is what you see. But in school, you're not taught what to do with money. We're not explained this, but we're expected at whatever age it is to go out and to make money and to know how to build our lives. So for me, this has been passion, like a big passion. So I ended up doing a master's in Schumacher College in England. It's a university that's quite alternative, that we learn from nature, from ecology, different ways of looking at things. And for me, it was mind-breaking. Like it just shifted my whole perspective, because 2 months in, I realized, okay, people are not only doing things for profit. Like there's other ways of doing things. And I learned about community currencies, what happens in crises, and a little bit what you brought, like when the crisis hits a country, like you do a lot of your work there. For example, in Argentina, when the crisis hit and there was hyperinflation, people invented coupons so they could trade between each other. You know, we are so creative. Humans, that we know how to survive, to make things happen. And this is something I really want to also kind of like empower people with in this time that we're going through. Because, okay, things are shaking. I know it's not easy for a lot of people. Like, I have some clients also, like, they lost their job, their partner, the apartment, everything in like 1 month, right? You're forced to sit at home and look at yourself. You haven't chosen it. Okay, I chose to go to Vipassana or silent meditations to do that. But if you haven't chosen it, it's a big shock to your life. And it's something that I feel like a lot of us need to integrate, you know, to understand.
Mm-hmm. And to
So it's
question,
like,
to reflect and question about it, no?
exactly.
You said something that was really interesting for me. When you did identified the turning point, like you had lots of money when you were working in finance, but suddenly the source of that money was toxic for you, and this was what brought you to change. And also, I found some research on this, and in fact, most of the times what these researchers show, see, if people are, they have lots of money, if the source of that money is not clean or it's too easy to get, people get really depressed and they lose the sense of purpose, they lose the meaning of their money. And it was really funny, or curious, not funny, that you said exactly like that. I was in a nice financial context, but suddenly the source of that money was making me questioning about, and it changed the way I look at it. And this is really interesting, because maybe this is one of the reasons that makes people find happiness in poverty contexts. I'm not sure, I'm just dropping the thing for our people, but it's interesting because it changed the root of your relationship, and suddenly you were in Schumacher College, and suddenly you begin to dig more in this community exchange. And I would like you to share at a certain point, I'm sure that you will do, your experience with Inkiri.
Yeah, sure. I want to tap on what you're saying exactly this. So I have worked with people who have a lot of money and people who don't. And there is always two sides to this. Like I would, you know, and I'm talking to someone now also. I'm developing a work. I do private work as well and for groups. And they were saying, can we put them together? And I said, yes, because you always think the grass is greener on the other side. When you don't have money, you think the people who have money are great. When you have money, you're like, oh, I have too much money, I'm not happy, and the people there are. And for me, it's the work is what energy we work with this with. So we can do something together later, but it's like, okay, I have a client, for example, I work with now. She has money, but she feels so much guilt about it. So every time it enters, she feels guilty. And then everything she spends, she feels guilty about. So all you end up feeling is guilt, or you're counting, or scarcity. And this is the energy you perpetuate.
Mm-hmm.
And at some point, it's like seeing your position and where you are.
Mm-hmm.
And then really moving forward from that, embracing it. I'm not saying that it's not tough when you don't have money.
Mm-hmm.
But like you said, there's two sides to this. And a lot of people I'm in touch with are also who have like family money, for example, from what you could say toxic sources that you mentioned, or like families who are making money from things such as oil or you know what I mean, like who are seen as the black sheep, let's say, but who are actually, and a lot of them women, but who are moving their family's money into regenerative projects, into new ways of doing things. So that for me has also been very interesting, that in the last few years, I've been in touch with more and more people who are shifting into that direction. Because of what you're saying, that, okay, there's depression or they're not happy, but they're finding a meaning to channel that money into another new way and to build up, let's say, the new economy or new projects or things.
So you
So
said before it was 5 generations to cut these patterns, transgenerational
at the moment,
economical.
yeah,
Yeah, is it? Oh,
this is what studies have said because we're not educating around money.
okay.
So
So these
let's
women
say
that
that
you see, these women that you usually see them, they are now maybe the fifth already because they are trying to change the pattern of their family. Probably no.
exactly. A lot of times it's, yeah, and also a lot of times they're, with the time that we're living in now, of course, people have shifted a lot, but a lot of these families and people who are doing it are at least the fourth generation, like who've inherited or putting it to work. But all of that just to say that it's not like, so I also don't feel like we need to come from poverty to appreciate money.
Okay.
I think that it's for all of us to find the balance because we also have this mindset, and I've suffered from it. And it's like at some point when I made all this money, I was like, this is all bad. I want nothing to do with this money. And I started first, I needed to go through a whole process of feeling the guilt around it myself, what my relationship was to it, and then moving forward. So, for example, when someone just asked a question, but
Yeah, yeah,
saying,
yeah. Tanya, we are, I think we will be there. Like, yeah, feeling not worthy to what you have, but maybe we can comment on it. And when it comes to guilt, also in my in the consultations that I receive, is the embarrassment that comes when people don't have. So guilt when you have too much, like you feel guilty, or
mhm,
if you spend too much, but then suddenly also you may feel embarrassed if you don't have. It's like there is always this comparison between you and your peers and the way your power, your purchasing power. You compare yourself and there is embarrassment and guilt. But yeah, I don't know if you want to comment on that. Yeah.
well, I definitely have seen in the work, and thank you, Tanya, for asking, but that a lot of the issues around money boil down to self-worth, boil down to the fact that where your value comes from and where you value yourself. It's a big one because no matter, you can have a lot of it and not feel worthy of it, or on the contrary, you're not, you're feeling like you don't deserve more, or you're stuck in this pattern of, let's say, how we were saying, poverty or questioning around that. So I think that this time is making a lot of us shift to the way we're looking at it. This is what happened, for example, I'll touch upon the Nkiri currency that we made in Brazil. So I realized I was living with the community and we looked at all the economic patterns of what was happening, and they wanted their own community currency. And so we were developing it. But in the process, I realized, okay, great, we can change the notes and coins that they're using. Dinkiri, beautiful pictures, a new energy behind it. But if people don't change the way they relate to money in the community, we will have the same problems again. Because it's not about the money per se, it's about our personal relationship to it. Because money, I believe, and that's what I've seen, is a neutral energy. So it's an energy there. And you can use it for the higher purpose of building amazing projects in the world, supporting others for good things, or you can use it for destruction, power, greed, scarcity. And so the question is how you're going to use it.
Yeah. To
You
receive more
know,
recognition, status, success, or even
or if you're going to,
power abuse. No, it's like something it's very common to see people using and abusing this the their with money, using and buying their relationships. And this is really, if you are not conscious about this, because many times you are not, because you are not trained to reflect and to think on this, at least in Portugal, I would say. But if someone has other opinion, please share with us. But I would say that in Portugal, we don't have this culture of reflecting and understanding our relationship with money. But then how did you do? What did you do in Inkiri, in Piracanga, to change the way people relate with money? I'm so curious about that.
yes, so that's where the workshop was born that I started working with people. So we really started going into dynamics. So the work I do, it's quite embodied as well with self-reflection, but also group dynamics. We really move through things and question what it is inside of us, and breaking patterns, not only individually, but as a group and collectively as well. Looking at what's holding us there. For example, here, and maybe also Portugal, I don't know how it is, but let's say in Europe, post the Second World War, there was a lot of famine, suffering. So there's a lot of, you need to work hard, you don't deserve to spend money on good things. The mindset around it. Like,
But
you
that's
need
the
to save a
mindset
lot.
that's coming now. It's scary because that's the mindset that it's flourishing now because of this pandemic. Huh?
And what's coming back again, exactly. So, yeah, for me, that's super interesting to observe, like you're saying. So,
But then how did you do in Kiwi? You want to share? You did some dynamics, and this is your workshop, right? The Give and Take Lab. This is
yeah, so
the
it's
workshop
called,
that you do.
yeah, the workshop I started is called Me, Myself, and Money. So it was really looking at a personal and emotional relationship to money. So we really start undoing patterns. We play a game around money. We look at how you relate to money. Like, even like holding it in your hand, smelling it. Like, people are like, oh, it's dirty. Oh, like it's past ferment. Like, what does it mean? And even today, more so with the pandemic that's happening, right? Money has turned into something that people don't want to touch. So it's super interesting to start reflecting on like what layers we can look at, kind of looking at deeper, like our relationship to it on the physical, and then whatever else it reflects to. And then we kind of also go into your past. So we look at like where patterns coming from, where did you pick up beliefs around money, looking at yourself, but also your generations behind, like parents, family. What are we carrying? Because we're not alone here. We carry a lot. You probably know from your work as well, but from our ancestors and from our families and what we're living in a day-to-day life here and the patterns that we're repeating.
Mm-hmm.
And then we really start looking at giving voice to things that we normally don't speak about. Exactly what we were saying, that it's such a topic that even parents and children don't speak about it, or siblings don't share. Like, many families don't know what the others are earning, or they don't want to speak about certain aspects of it. And so it's kind of bringing voice to these things, and also bringing voice to like where you are, so you not having to justify your position.
Oh.
So it's really interesting bringing people into a room from all sides of the spectrum. People who are abundant, who've inherited money, to people who are working really hard or come from a mindset that money is evil, or, and we bring it together and then we see what comes out. Because a lot of times we sit in our own kind of box. Okay, these are my views on this. And normally, we're surrounded by people who have similar views, or we're surrounded by a societal group who think the same way. And so we don't break out of the way we see things because our friends think more or less the same, or, we're surrounded by certain things. And when times like this hit, it's like we go through a washing machine.
Yeah.
And that's a bit like what we do in the work. We're like, okay, let's wash together and let's see. Because when you sit in front of someone who, let's say you have a perspective of like, I hate money, and or I need more money, or whatever it is, and you see someone on the other side who you project certain things on, and they speak completely differently, or you see another side to this, all of a sudden it gives you realizations that, it's a lot about projections. It's a lot about, you know what I mean? So let's say if there's a student who doesn't have a lot of money, is struggling, and is sitting opposite someone who has a lot of money, and all of a sudden shares that he's completely depressed, and his family are controlling him with money, and he can't choose what he wants to do. You start realizing, oh, maybe I am more free as a student, making my own choices. Okay, maybe I don't have so much money. So all of a sudden, different factors come into the equation.
Yeah,
And a
because
lot
money
of,
can be heavy, heavy in the sense of locking you and take you out your freedom. Yeah, I can give it an example. I don't know if this it's interesting,
please, yeah.
but most of the times in consultations, what I see, it's like people, for instance, the previous generation, they had like a father or grandfather, they had no money, and suddenly father has money and doesn't want this child, who is now a grown up and it comes to my consultation, to be scarce, to have scarcity in his life. And at a certain point, he begins to buy him lots of things, and then to inject some abundancy in his life. And suddenly this little kid who was born and raised with some level of scarcity begins to feel confused. So am I supposed to use money like this, like spending with no boundaries, or should I save it? And this is a dilemma that comes at least in the consultations, and it interferes with the economical health of this person. I think we
Mm.
had little cuts. I don't know if you could listen to me or if you could understand me.
No, I heard you. Yeah.
Ah.
Great.
So I don't know if you have also this experience, and see if you also feel like this. Like sometimes it's a bit confusing. The previous generation tried to compensate their relationship with money, and then suddenly they give too much, or they don't give because they were so unhappy with their family, and this influences the relationship between people, and also the way people view money, and also the way they look at work. So it's like a connection to everything.
No, fully. It becomes a whole spiral, first from generation to generation. Either we end up doing the same or the complete opposite, right? Because, like, depending where it is. And then, like you said, it connects to work and other things. A lot of the kind of work I'm doing around this is exactly this, because at the moment we're very conditioned. Okay, maybe the crisis is also bringing some room for this, but you work from 9 to 5 or whatever it is, you go to the office and you make your money. And we have this pattern working to pay our bills, our rent, and that's what it is. And that aspect of like, where's your spontaneity, what I brought in the beginning, before money, or where's your purpose, or what is your creativity comes in. Because work has become such a thing, like you're saying, of like, okay, we're doing, like, basically it's become transactional. This is like a whole nother level, but let's say if we were all expressing ourselves and living our full purpose and doing what we needed to do, it wouldn't be like, I need to earn money for this. I would just be expressing myself in my fullness like children do, happiness, playing, and giving. But now it's become like, I will do this and you'll pay me for that hour. Or I'll do this and so it's become transactions. So everything is measured according to transaction. Everything is measured in the family, maybe like you're saying, from generation, but also from person to person. And that's what work has become. So all of a sudden work has become termed something where, it's work. But could we actually work in something that makes us feel alive, that we're excited to go to? And this is what I also feel maybe this pandemic or this situation has brought to people. I work with a few people who really didn't want to stay in their jobs, and through the crisis, this has changed. Or home office has brought people back closer to their families, maybe. I mean, I'm talking about one side now. Of course, there's many different stories, but closer to their families. Or you realize that, I can work from different places. Maybe I can spend more time in nature. Or a lot of people have left the city because of home office. They can now work from the countryside somewhere. And all of a sudden realize that there's other aspects to life that are important. And I think what has happened is, like you were also saying, depression rates are the highest, or in crises and things. It's because we've put so much attention into work and money, and that's become our cycle, that a lot of us have forgotten, like, what makes me truly happy, or what is a hobby, or maybe I can go for a walk with someone, or just go to the beach or connect to nature or something. And we forget these elements that actually are really important for our own psyche and our health.
And in Portugal, most of them are still free. Like going to the beach, you can go for free. And
I mean,
in Switzerland, for instance, it's not for free. If you want to go to the beach, you need to pay. In Portugal, it's still free to go to the beach. And even if you are living around Lisbon, there are nice gardens, and it's free. You can go buy food because it's a very small city. So there are tons of things that we can still do. And in fact, it's one of the tips when we talk about financial health that people begin to propose. It's like, make a list of things that you can do for free and that are fun to do with your family members or friends. Because most of the times we are still too obsessed with this. I don't have money, so I cannot go out. I cannot be with this or that person. But there are tons of things that we can still do, and it's a privilege because in Lisbon, in Portugal, and in Lisbon, it's a capital, it's an European capital, and there are still lots of things that we can do for free and to have some quality time and to be available with these people.
I
So
feel so blessed to be living here in Lisbon. I mean, I walk across the city, like I walk everywhere. And when I do like I walk home, I always make sure I walk past a viewpoint. There's so many. It's like even if it takes longer to just have a view of the Taj, you know, like to look at there's gardens everywhere.
and it's
You can
for
cross the
free.
bridge in 20 minutes. You're in Caparica or you're in Cascais or Guilch or wherever, or Sintra Forest. I mean, it's amazing. And I feel that through this pandemic and through having stayed home, that maybe we have reassessed again what's important. That we've realized that just going out and being in nature is important. You know, that it doesn't mean we need to only go to restaurants and, you know, like, because they've been taken away from us, of course. You know, I'm not saying not at all, but that those little elements of life, once again, we see how important they are for us and that our
Something.
mental health depends on these. No,
Mhm.
but for me, it's clear my mental health depends on the fact that I can walk and have some nature or be at the beach or see this, you know, like these little moments. And I think that by slowing down, by the whole world has just slowed down so that like the last confinement and now again, we can see what's important. Like we can
Um,
connect back to these aspects. So
yeah, for sure. It's again, it's one of the big tip when it comes to have more economic financial health. It's to identify some passions that you may have, and that are free to do, and you are able to do it with friends or family. Um, Something which is really interesting, and I was just remembering, and it comes related to couples. It's what I found, and this was really recent. It was a couple of maybe last week. One patient, she told me that she was getting divorced because she was really angry. Her husband was not bringing any money home, and their problems they were struggling with economical problems because he was not bringing money, and their problem is money, money, money. So money was always the top of the table. And at a certain point, I just asked her, but what if we take money of this equation? What do you have in your relationship? And suddenly she said, she just realized, no, it's not money. I just don't want to be with him. And sometimes money can be a way to cover or uncover things, especially when there is a couple, because it's very difficult to define a couple budget or to define a family budget together, or even to decide who is giving what to the family budget. And this was really, it was last week, and it's at a certain point she said, even if he brings lots of money, I don't want to be with him. But this was something that she needed time to gain conscience and to be aware of. I don't know if you have some experience with this, or some tip for some couples that are struggling with this, like the way to approach money in a family context or even in a relationship.
yeah, I mean, it's so interesting, this topic. I haven't had a few couples in my workshops together. I had a couple also joining, and for example, they both didn't know how much each other earned. You know, or I've worked with couples where they got married and all of a sudden the husband just went into massive debt and they were not aware of it. And I feel it is so important fundamentally for couples and a relationship to be open about this, to be transparent and to get on the same page because
But
we can
how
have
to begin a conversation like that? How much do you earn? Like, do you have debts? Can I see your? I don't know. Okay, maybe if we have one tip.
no, but it's sorry, you could just cut. No, I didn't see all of what you just said, but I'm getting the gist of what you're saying. I mean, of course, it's a matter of trust, but when we start, I think it's the most important is to be transparent about it from both sides. And there's a lot of like I'm not saying like, okay, we need to sit down and everyone like open up the balance sheets and this is my bank account, right? But we all grow up with different relationships to money, right? We all grow up with different family contexts, different ways, and divorce rates, like financial issues, are one of the highest divorce rates.
Yeah,
And I
it
feel
contributes. Yeah.
fundamentally it's because we have different spending patterns and different relationships to money. So I assume, okay, you're going to think the same way, or you're going to think like we're going to do it. But no, I come from a different background. I might have scarcity about certain things. Maybe I'm into like buying a lot of food and wasting food, and someone else is like the other person cannot believe that you can't throw away food. You know, we all have completely different patterns about all these different topics. And money is a big one, but we don't want to speak about it. And so for me, it's fundamental that when we enter a relationship or we enter a process, that we're clear about it, of what our needs are, of where we stand, and we can make it clear. Like, I've done a lot of workshops, couple workshops, also tantra workshops with my partner, and we write a lot of agreements down. We sit down and we do our finances. We're not married, but we have a son together. We do our finances together. We say, okay, what does it look like? How much do we spend? Let's be clear about this. Let's
Okay.
put it all on the table. And we sit down and we're like, okay, this is how much, and we go down to like the littlest details together to see it. And for me, it was a process too. At some point, I was like, wow, like it's, it's something to look at and to really take in. But I feel fundamentally, if we can be, it's like building a house. I see it like this. If we don't put down the groundwork, if we don't put the sewage in properly, if we don't put the bricks down, it's not going to work. Like, we're not going to build higher. If there's holes here and there, or if we're unclear about certain things and we're not sharing about this, it becomes like something that, like, let's say a brick is missing. In the end, when we're building on something, it can just all collapse. And numbers, financial, it's part of life.
Yeah, but
It's
that's good.
really, really, it's
That's a very good tip to sit together and make the balance. Sometimes in a couple, and usually, uh, not usually, but sometimes men they eat more than women, for instance. I cannot say usually, but okay, I can give this example. But in this sense, of course, this family, if the couple comes together and one eats more than the other one, there will be more money needed to buy more food, and this can bring some challenges because the other one say, "Why do you buy all this fancy cheese? I don't, it's not a priority for me." And this brings lots of conflicts or may bring. So it's, thank you. This tip that you give, like sit together and find what is your priorities in spending. There is also a very, at least in Portugal, I don't know if you know this, there is this when marriage, when people get married, they can get by in church, Catholic marriages, they can do this training with priests. The thing is, in Portugal, majority of the people already are not getting married that often, so they don't get this
Mhm.
training but because it's provided by the church. But in fact, they have an amazing topic, which is getting married means you need to know how to deal with money. And in this little training, what they see, they suggest people to, they choose a percentage of money that you have, own personal money, and the suggestion is like, okay, you can give 5% of your money or 10% of your money to the family budget. And at this point, it
Mm.
doesn't matter who earns more or less, it means that both can contribute to this situation. So I don't know, this is also something that it's interesting. And if yeah, I share this because sometimes it's a problem
I
it's a
think it's
conflict.
super important, like what you're bringing about the cheese as well, because let's say one person eats more cheese and the other person holds it inside of them, and every time the cheese comes, and they're eating more cheese. I mean, this causes unspoken and festered things in a relationship that can really, at the end, be detrimental. Like I'm saying, it's like the one brick that's missing and the whole house falls down because of a little, like, and if you say, for example, okay, you eat more of this, if one person says the cheese is more important for me, okay, let's put budget to that. And I would say, okay, maybe this is more important for me. A lot of men look at, well, are you spending so much money? Or are you going unnecessarily to this or this and this? And if we don't speak about it, it stays there. Like I had a client and he was like, oh, first his wife felt really controlled because he would check everything. And then I said, maybe you can give her a budget so she can organize things every month, you know? And so she did. And then at some point he's like, you know, I get really annoyed that every day she has a coffee when she drives the kids to school, you know, and it's a lot of money and she goes to like an expensive coffee. And then I said, maybe you speak to her about it. And he came back next week and he's like, you know, she said to me that she drives 45 minutes there. She has a coffee, you know, and sometimes she waits for the kid and then she drives back. And he didn't understand how important that coffee was to her, you know? And so once we have dialogue around, and it's like a coffee, and this could break a whole relationship because he's projecting something on it. But once we have dialogue around these things, once we bring clarity, it's not about the coffee. Or it's not about the, you know, when they say people get divorced because of the toothpaste or whatever.
Or the
you know,
cheese. It's the meaning
exactly,
behind. Yeah. And
exactly. And
suddenly you
it's
just break the taboo and it brings the shadow, which was there, destroying or influencing the relationship, just comes to another spot. And
to another surface. Exactly. And there's another book that it reminds me of, the Five Love Languages. Have you read
ah,
that?
see, see. Yeah.
And that kind of reminds me of what we're talking about now, because sometimes in a relationship, for one person, money is a big thing. You know, like the financial aspect. Like let's say, like for some people, it's a big aspect around like their life goals. For others, it might be something completely different, like having quality time together. So
Yeah.
one partner in the relationship might think that I need to work really hard and make more money, and that's important for my family. Whereas the other person might say, I just want quality time. And, you know, money is not the biggest aspect. And so I think it's really important, especially for couples, to sit down and to speak about what each other's goals are. I'm not saying you can't have this goal or you can't have that goal because we're each individual, but to understand the other person so that I'm aware
Communicate.
that, yeah, like for example, maybe my goal is more to have more time or to do other things, but a partner's goal is to make more money. Okay, but let's align it and say, okay, if working or these things are more important, let's get it right. You know, let's understand each other, because otherwise we're completely miscommunicating with each other.
What I also see when people come facing these kind of challenges in their relationship, most of the times they begin to fight because there is sort of a competition. For instance,
Mm,
I don't want to I don't want to give up this idea because it's always me giving up my ideas
mm,
and to the other person, and then the other one comes, no, always she's always very strong, I'm never giving up, so now I will stick to this, and money is really important. And the work we do together most of the times is like, okay, let's decide what when we are giving up, not to the other person but to the relationship, which doesn't mean that you are in a competition. You are just giving up this idea for the relationship because there is a family budget. If the topic is money, there is this family budget. We are both of us, we agree on this. And for this family budget, there is this kind of actions we can do and may do. For myself, I need this. For yourself, you need that. But most of the times when we change this idea of the giving up for the other one, and the competition breaks, and it's like, no, it's for a common family well-being. And sometimes it changed. I don't know if you also have this experience, or if you have this view or opinion.
I think it's something very important that you're bringing, that it's almost like it's beyond us. It's beyond you and me fighting, but it's for something greater. And I think a lot of times when a child comes into play, that dynamic can change. You can start realizing that it's not only about me fighting for my needs or the other person fighting for theirs, but or something that really brings us into a dynamic of like, there's something like we are together in this. It's like it becomes more than just your own fight. And for me, it was a big learning to put down my weapons. It was like I had to choose to lay down the weapons. You know, like in all these decisions, it's like we can continue fighting, but at some point, if we're just going to keep killing each other, maybe we can put down the weapons and speak about it or look at it or find a higher reason for that. Because I also see like every situation when we look at it, it's like there's two sides to it. Like this is like this, let's say this is a situation, and whatever story your story is, you will see that mirror from that story. But your partner will see the completely different mirror, or his, the projections you have, or your story that runs. So it's so important for us, like, and then it's like, no, I'm right, or I'm right, or this is, it's like at some point, I think it's putting down the weapons, like you're saying, putting down the competition, putting that aside and saying, okay, can we look at it together from another space?
Yeah. Yeah.
And a big tool I've also found for us in our relationship that's helped sometimes in situations where we had to speak about it is that we would do something, for example, where we would have a topic. We generally like to light a candle or make it like a bit of like a space. And then we both sit opposite each other. And everyone gets the same amount of time to speak. So my partner, let's say, let's say the topic is money or a disagreement about something. He will get 2 minutes, 5 minutes, 3 minutes.
It's a pitch speak.
Yeah, he will get to speak and I cannot speak.
But
So
in
all you have to
pitch,
do,
in pitch, like 2 minutes, that's it.
No, he will speak and I will sit and listen. And then I will speak for 2 minutes and he'll sit and listen. And you continue doing this. And then he will speak and I will listen. Because a lot of times we don't allow the other person to speak and straight away we get triggered and our emotions get higher. But it's about holding that space. And so each person speaks, but you cannot speak when they're speaking.
And 2 minutes, it's a lot of time.
You can adjust the time as you want as a couple. So you choose. But you have to hold the space for the other person. And if you have something that you want to say, you keep it until it's your turn. Because like this, it really brings a space where you can actually listen to the other one. A lot of times we don't listen, or straight away we're, I feel it, I'm triggered, and oh, no. But all of a sudden I can't speak and I'm like, okay, breathe, hold it in, listen to what they have to say and see what it brings up in us. And a lot of times I find that it brings a whole nother space about, like almost that third dimension we were talking about, that other space that we can get to see something and to understand also seeing it from their point of view sometimes that it's very hard to do. So
we are reaching the end, but I would like you to, I think you bought something like sort of exercise or some tip or specific tool that you would like to share with us.
yeah, I mean, I brought a few now. I think this couples one is a great one to start with.
Okay.
Also, really sitting together and writing it out. And for me, what I think, especially in this time, is so important that we're going through, and what I generally do in the work is, I mean, we could even do it together now.
Okay, if you want, I can be your, I will be the other one, yeah? And people at home, pessoas em casa, podem também fazer.
But generally, I just invite us to close our eyes and to feel into what money means to us. So if you want to close your eyes and just open your hands. So you might lay them on your lap or your knees, exactly like this. So facing upright. And just taking a few deep breaths here, just staying in silence. And just opening up to the energy of money and just saying, okay, I'm going to call in this energy of money. And what does this mean to me? And feeling into your body, becoming aware of your sensations, how maybe your breath changes, what thoughts come into your mind, what feelings you have. And then becoming aware of your hands. Is one hand heavier than the other? How do they feel? And what we're going to do is we're going to invite the energy of money into your left hand, and it's going to flow out of your right hand. So when we look at money, it was actually invented as a means of exchange so that it can flow, that we can pass it to people, that we can exchange goods and services. And I'm just going to invite you to feel, if you can, how that resonates to you. So how does it feel? Maybe it's harder to enter, your left hand is heavier, or your right hand. It's harder to give. How do you feel around it? And then also becoming aware of where you're receiving the money from. So what work you're doing, where it's coming from, what sources it's coming from, and how you're spending it. What are the most important aspects for you individually? And just allowing it to come to you. So in between your body, you have the sensations and feelings around money. And are you in flow with it? Like, is it equally coming in and out? Or is one side heavier? Is one side tighter? Is one side harder for you to connect to? Maybe it's harder for you to receive or to give. And then thinking about your priorities in both of these sides. Like, what do you want to do with this energy in your life? Because you have a choice. And where do you place yourself in this? And then as you come back, I'm going to invite you. Generally, I like to work with a circle, to write down in the center of the circle, to really take this, like how you feel about money, what is the energy around it, what reflections can you put. So if you've got a piece of paper, I really invite you to put it down. And then looking at the inflows on one side, where it comes from, and how you feel about how it enters your life. Because the feeling that it enters with is how it enters your space. And then as you're spending it, how it goes out. Because we also vote with our money, what we spend on, we make decisions with this. This is also our own personal power. So who are you supporting with it? And to become really aware of where you are in the cycle of money, your personal one. So for me, this is something really important. And then in the center, to put down all the feelings you have. Because when you start becoming aware of like, even like how you earn it, like, do you ask personally for your money, or do you have someone asking for you? You know, do you feel ashamed to ask for your payment, for your services? How does that feel to you? Because if there's shame coming in, like, where does that put your self-worth in the center? And then how do you use it? How do you use it going forward with other people? Because if you have a certain way that it enters your life, how do you think you use it when it exits your life? So becoming really aware of this. For me, it's like the fundamental exercise or exploration I like to do with people before we even start, to understand. Like where you're earning it from, how do you feel when you go to work? How does your paycheck enter your life? You know, when you look at it, are you able to ask a lot of independent people, for example, if you're working? Do you send your receipts on time, late? Do you need to wait for them to ask you? You know, all of these little details, they give us signs of how we relate to it. And then how we are in life. Do we pay on time? Do we use more credit cards or not? Like, what is the dynamic we work with?
Mart, are you there? I think I lost you, but I'm not sure.
Hello?
Okay, I think you are back. There was little cuts from your side, I think. Can you hear me?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you very well, but I cannot see you so well because you are a bit freeze. Hello? I think now you are coming back again.
Hi. Okay.
Okay.
Sorry, I don't know what
And freeze.
happened. I just lost.
And freeze. Okay.
Sorry. So it's really important for me fundamentally to put this down from the beginning, just to know where you are in your life,
Mm-hmm.
where these energies are, and how you feel.
Mm-hmm.
And then another exploration I'm really inviting a lot of people to do at the moment, personally, is okay, this is my life. This is where I am.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say on the left-hand side, we put that. And then on the right-hand side, it's like, where do I want to go to? Like, what do I want to get to? Like, what is the ideal situation? So, and this can be anything from aspects to like how you want to live your life financially, all of these things. And then taking 3 concrete steps in the center of how we can get that way. Because number one, okay, if we sit here complaining, saying, oh, I don't have enough money, or I'm not happy, or oh, I hate my job. Okay, it's great to say that. But where do you want to go to then? What would make you happy? What would be a great situation for you? How do you want to live? Because if we're stuck in the same cycles of thinking, it's okay. We can sit there complaining and, oh, but okay, let's put it down. Okay, this is my situation now, clear and blank. So if you want to take a moment, you can just even put down 3 things of like where you are. And I had a client who's like, okay, I basically just lost my home. You know, I've lost my job, my partner, and his dream has always been to be independent. He wanted to surf more. He wanted to spend more time in nature, and his partner didn't. And what happened with the crisis was that actually it gave him all of the things that he wanted. But when we're in it, we can't see it. So for me, it's really putting down kind of where you are at, what are the situations, and then where you want to get to.
And this is the kind of work that you do with your clients, right? It's money coaching, or how do you call it? How people can get to you and to your services?
You can get in touch with me through direct messages, but also through Give and Take Lab. So it's givetakelab.com and it's there. Yeah, so I do a lot of individual coaching
Mm-hmm.
with people. And then I also do group sessions, workshops, and a lot of this is around money.
Mm-hmm.
But now also much more, it goes from money to purpose. So it's not just like let's make more money and stuff, because a lot of the understanding that comes out of it is really understanding our situation where we are. And then a lot of the realizations that really come is that when we're so focused on money, we think money is going to bring me happiness and money is this thing. And actually we miss that we have a great life or a great family, or that there's so many other dimensions of life that are
So it's
beyond
not
money.
only so it's not only about abundance. It's more about how to be abundant with purpose, right?
Exactly. And actually that abundance is beyond just money or what the frame might be that we think of, like you're saying. So all of a sudden we take away this transactional part and we realize that abundance is there. It's a bit what you said, like there's so many free things to do, but we miss them because we think that the paid things are better or something like this. That when we take away some of our understandings, our mirrors, that falls away. For example, me, I earn so much less than I ever did in finance in London. And I used to be so afraid. I was like, oh, I'm going to leave and I can't go to the same restaurants and I can't see the same people and all of these cycles. And then I realized, actually what's more important for me is to sit around a fire sometimes, to go to nature and walks. Yes, of course I like nice restaurants too, but I don't have to do that every day. So it's finding that what are the important things in our values again.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this time really brings this aspect of us being able to reconnect to ourselves, going inwards in that kind of exploration of staying and really finding your own values and what's important to you.
Mm-hmm. And this is the work when you talk about coaching individual sessions. This is the kind of work that you do with people. You help people to find their own values, their core values, and to understand their beliefs towards related to money, their relationship with money, and also to this kind of tips and exercise that you share with us today. It's just a glimpse of what you do in your consultations, in your
Exactly.
sessions.
We
It's not consultations, it's sessions or consultations, I don't know.
sessions, yeah, we go on a journey. So I ask people to commit to
Okay.
at least 10 because at session 2 or 3, you're like, oh, I don't want to do this anymore. And most people want to run away. But once we go through it, I mean, it's true. It's a topic that, like we said, it's not so easy to speak about, right? So a lot of
Yeah, you
people are
need
like, oh,
time. You need to get
they're
ready.
like,
You need some
exactly. They're like,
icebreakers.
they're like, if I didn't commit to this, I wouldn't be coming to you anymore. And I'm like, I know, that's why I asked you to commit. But once we go through it, so it's very individual. So some people I really help like kind of find their path to
Okay.
making money, and others goes the other direction. They have money and we start seeing what is the purpose and where is the happiness. And
Mhm.
so it's so individual but so strong. And what's really come to me more recently, I think I mentioned it to you as well, becoming a mom and this whole shift is also working with a lot of women to empower them, because
Mhm.
it's a big thing I'm seeing. And it's like, just to close, but it's like we're like the first generation of women who are all working.
Mhm.
I mean, of course, some of our parents did, but it wasn't so common that women had careers at the time or were really empowered. And so there's a lot of questions around women and money.
Mhm.
And what is our value, and how do we position ourselves in work and family and who we are as a woman? Because all of a sudden we are also working and we're not just at home, and we also embody different aspects. I mean, it wasn't so long ago women got to vote. And so all of a sudden it's like women were a lot in care positions, and as teachers or carers or nurses, but we didn't see our value. And it's now teaching women to find their value. And still in the workplace, there's endless articles written and research is done that women are underpaid and men are always paid more. And all of this, I don't want to go into that story, but it's necessarily finding, like, empowering women to find our own value, and
Mhm.
not by fighting. Because
Mhm.
when I was in finance, I wanted to be like a man, and I was like, yeah, I can do it, and
Yeah.
I'm going to prove to you, No, I don't
And
think that's the way to go.
it's not embracing only your young energy. It's also
Exactly.
including and using the power of your energy. It's like you don't need to be a
Completely.
man to be here. You just need to.
And this is a big aspect that's kind of come into my work more recently, to understand this. Like, how do we bring that energy into it? Also for men, but really
Mhm.
like to embody this. So
Okay. Okay. And is there any workshop of Give and Take Lab soon or no? How
next
can
year, in the
we?
beginning.
Yeah.
So I will share it with you. I'd be so happy to.
Yes.
I'm launching something online for the beginning of next year. I haven't put it out yet, but I definitely want to kind of open that avenue again. So
Okay. That's good.
I'll be happily share it with you, and if you can share it with everyone, and if anyone's interested, please get in touch with me. I'm really open to speak more. I also have an online course and many different resources, so that will be coming
Okay.
out again around this topic. So thank you so much.
And do you have any material translated to Portuguese or something that people that are not so eager to speak English can follow you, or only in English for English speakers?
I'm going to find it. I did some translations, so I will share it with you for sure.
Okay. No, it's just for
And
people to
also I
know.
have, no, of course, and I also have more recently started something called Time for Changers.
Ah, yeah,
Um,
that project is amazing.
and
So people,
that's
there is time for changes. These projects from Mar, it's amazing. I love it. I'm a follower. There is also these projects he did in Piracanga. So you need to look for this community in Piracanga and what she did. This her amazing job, and Give and Take Lab. So yeah, there is lots of researches that you can do.
And
Please.
Time for Changers is all in Portuguese. So at the
Oh
moment I
yeah.
have a team. So everything is it's more for young people between 14 to 18. So what I kind of brought, but I'm trying to in a way bring all of these values and what we're speaking about
Mhm.
to students to learn about it.
Yeah, okay, perfect. Um, yes, so thank you so much.
Maria, I lost you. Ah,
Yeah,
hear you.
we're back.
Yeah. No,
Um,
just
thank you.
so
Thank you
thank you
so
so
much.
much.
It was a very nice conversation. I hope you enjoyed as well. I hope we are able to put some subtitles for people to follow and also to learn more, because there are lots of people that without Portuguese, people without subtitles, they feel a bit lost, but we will give you some subtitles in
And
Portuguese.
I'm learning too. Eu estou aprendendo português, mas
Então, e é o
eu
português do Brasil.
sim, porque eu tenho muito tempo em Brasil e agora eu estou aprendendo português de Portugal, mas é um pouco difícil. É para mim, é tudo as pessoas aqui falam inglês. It's very difficult. It's difficult. Eu quero falar português em restaurante como pessoa, eles querem falar inglês.
Mas o teu português é maravilhoso. Tens que treinar mais. É
Não.
maravilhoso. Porque, porque tem o accent brasileiro e então é muito
Sim.
smooth. Sim, sim, tens que treinar.
Mas, mas eu estou um pouco tímida. Falo um pouco de português, sim.
Não
Mas
precisa.
um poucos. Eu moro aqui, é importante. Importante. Eu falo a língua também, mas
Soon, faremos outro live em português. Pode ser português do Brasil e a Mar vai partilhar connosco o que ela, todos os seus conhecimentos com o seu português do Brasil. Em breve. Fica a nossa promessa. It's beautiful. Yes, so thank you so much for your time, and soon we will share all this live with the with subtitles and everything. And whenever there is this workshop in January, I will share in BeHuman page, because it's very important for everybody to have this financial and economical and money education to talk about this topic. It's not supposed to be a taboo, and as all the controversial topics, like if we want to get some opinion on it, we need to dig on it, like about politics or about everything. So we should do the same for money, and this is the proposal for tonight. So thank you for sharing and your knowledge, Mar.
thank you so much, Maria. It was really nice to be with you, and I'm available, so I'll be in touch also about the workshops. And
Yeah,
yeah,
for
thank you
sure.
for making this platform open to everyone. I think it's so important during this time. So,
Yeah, for sure.
okay.
So yes, bye bye, and enjoy your dinner and your kids. Yeah.
You too. Have a good evening.
Yeah. Bye bye.
Bye.
Bye bye. I'm okay. Me. Okay. You can leave. I will just say some words. Okay. Então, pronto, esta foi a nossa partilha em inglês, por isso os English speakers mantiveram-se. Resumindo e baralhando, o tema das finanças e do dinheiro é de facto importante, porque toca numa série de assuntos que está relacionados, que impactam diretamente com a nossa saúde mental. Não se esqueçam de perceber exatamente qual é a vossa relação com o dinheiro, que tipo de emoções é que surgem quando falamos em dinheiro, que tipo de comportamentos de gasto é que têm, porque isso tudo depois influencia a forma como nos relacionamos com os outros e com o próprio mundo. E numa situação pandémica como a que vivemos, é extremamente importante conseguirmos identificar os sintomas de stress financeiro. Embora pareça óbvio, nem sempre é assim tão fácil, por isso perceber quando é que o meu stress, a fonte do meu stress é por uma questão financeira, e pode ser óbvia, mas também como é que nós podemos tranquilizar isto. Falar sobre isto é uma das questões, abrir o tema dinheiro honestamente com a nossa rede de apoio é outra das questões, fazer budget mensais é outra das opções, fazer um plano a médio e longo prazo em termos do orçamento que se quer manter e ganhar é outra sugestão, e foi sobre estas coisas que falámos hoje, por isso fiquem atentos. Os próximos, teremos em breve outro BeHuman Convida com outro tema. Estamos a aproximar-nos do final do ano e vamos ter um tema muito quente na próxima semana, que é sexo. Não percam, na próxima quarta-feira, o tema sexo, no próximo dia 16, às 21 horas, a hora às 9 da noite, o tema vai ser sexo com uma sexóloga com livros publicados e tudo mais. Por isso fiquem atentos e voltem sempre. Tchau!